Well, I'm looking around for a place to record this. It's called Writing Notes on Molecules. And it's a lovely place here. Just, I don't know, woods, you know? Huh, just all around, basically. And this way, too. And just the forest floor and these beautiful pine cones. Okay, but I better just find a place to sit down and record this. I think let's see, can I show? That stump will do. Let's try that. I'm gonna sit there and back to me. Okay, my name is Terry Bale, and you always put a question mark on that, Terry Bale. Yeah, it's Terry Bale, and like a hay bale. And I just start in. I gotta do it. It's called Writing Notes on Molecules, and I actually read better without my glasses. And I didn't bring that stand where you sit it on a stand. So I'm just gonna try it. I'll see how far I get, kind of. But it's nice outside. And my hair is all messed up. Oh, it's not messed up. It's just on crooked. Oh, there we go. I'm just doing this on my own, It's not like anyone's telling me how to or what to or that I should. But a lot of people have encouraged me. So anyway, let's see, do I do it this way? That's the dedication page. Dedication to God. And the scripture I put at the bottom. Colossians chapter 1 verses 16 and 17. For by him were all things created that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him, and he is before all things, and by him all things consist. That's Colossians chapter 1 verses 16 and 17. Go look it up. It's good stuff. And Romans chapter 11 verse 36. For of him and through him and to him are all things, to whom be glory forever. Amen. He is wonderful, and he's made all this. Everything. More than what's just right here. But this is beautiful. And it's not far from the road, and it's not far from houses. If I turn it around, see, there's our van, and there's the everything. And so, but I'm just sitting here. Okay, okay, I'm just gonna start reading this. All Bible quotations, mind you, everything is handwritten. Does that show it? Yep, is handwritten. So it'll read kind of quick, and yet, I don't know. I got it written, the introduction, 10/15/04. And I know that was written after the other things that are essays that are written in here. All Bible quotations are authorized King James Version. This was written in 2004. Disclaimer. What I have written here are just ideas to consider. Only God's Word can be trusted full out. Glory be to God. Introduction. 10/15/04. This might get to be a little bit, that's a hard stump to sit on. It's okay. I wonder. And it wobbles, but if my hand wobbles. But I'm just so, I don't want to say desperate, but I'm so need to get things done. So, and I'm just you. I'm just you. I'm just human. I'm just me. And I want you to know that. And that I don't think I'm all that smart, or that these ideas are not perfect. It's what the Lord let me to understand. But I better get them read. Introduction. Listen, in these notes I talk about dimensions. I talk about engineering. Oh, what time is it? It's 5 minutes. Wow. So, I've already talked to you for 5 minutes. And the whole thing may take an hour or an hour and a half. And I've only got an hour and a half to do. So we'll see how it goes. Listen, in these notes I talk about dimensions. I talk about engineering and molecules. And the average person might think, this is crazy talk. I can put this further out, I think. Lean my elbow on my knee so as to hold it. The average person might think, this is crazy talk, or figure that this stuff is too far out to be of any use. Well, yeah, you're right. It is far out in a way. Yet whether you read it or not, if you live in or near some industrialized city or nation, dimensions, engineering, and molecules have an enormous effect on your life. I myself am not a scientist. I am interested in science, but most of all, I love God, and I love people. And that takes up a lot of my time and energy right there. It was God who got me to thinking about all this stuff. And it was God who urged me to try to understand it somewhat and see how it fit into the big picture. Without an understanding of dimensions, engineering, and molecules, my picture of life was relatively flat. It was like my understanding of clocks and watches before my husband became a restorer of clocks and watches. I had only known the outsides, and that was enough at the time. But now I know about the insides and how they work. The thing is, our industrialized society is highly engineered. At the same time, it rides on people who have not just bodies and brains, but hearts and souls that are other dimensional. And as industry pushes people to produce more and more industry, their hearts and souls are getting injured, damaged, worn out, and crushed in the process. When the clock is running well, it suffices to look at the face of it. But when it is breaking down, you need to look inside. That's what these notes are here for. This society's clockworks puzzle is a major part of our lives. We need to know how it works and what it's up to. For though our lives are only a small part of it, it is a very large part of us. And we had better know what we are into, because we are into it big. When I got the last major piece of the puzzle into place and stepped back to look at the whole, I was mildly but deeply stunned. Mildly because I expected to see what I saw, America in the grip of a deadly force. Deeply because I saw now that the thing hadn't bound us hand and foot, but had wrapped itself around our brains and coiled itself down deep into our hearts. What can be done? There's so little room for hope, I thought. But the Lord was of another opinion. Write, he said, and tell them what you see. So that's the introduction. Next, God's dimensions. We are always looking for God further out and more dimensional. But what if he is further out and further in, and more complexly less dimensional? He has told us in the scriptures that he is one, the simplest. Yet that needn't, logically, stop him from being the greatest, far and away the greatest. There is none like him. Yet he cares for us. Amazing. From what we know from the scriptures, that's the Bible, from the scriptures, God was the first and only thing. Nothing was before him, so that all the visible, tangible universe is inferior to, younger than, and made by him. What did he make it all from? When I asked him that, he left me to consider it this way. Perhaps he took a whole chunk out of himself and broke it into usable pieces, like how white light can be broken into the colors of the spectrum, while the unbroken light that is left stays whole, and how a new human being is made from just such a breaking process, with extra materials like the placenta and the amniotic sac, etc., being created along the way, while the parent's personhood is not diminished in the least. So, perhaps God took some expendable part of himself, broke it into usable pieces, and began to make something special out of it. A universe, for example, and creatures, and man. Maybe, like an artist puts a fractional part of their fractional selves into their fractional art, he has fashioned the whole of everything out of a whole part of himself. DNA comes to mind also, as again, he stays whole somehow, with the plan of reintegrating the stuff that grows and benefits other growing, benefiting stuff back into or onto himself. Did you hear that well enough? Maybe he has fashioned the whole of everything out of a whole part of himself, with the plan of reintegrating the stuff that grows and benefits other growing, benefiting stuff back into or onto himself, like an artist enjoys and employs his own creation. I gotta keep putting this thing out. Yet in God's work of creation, he gave to us humans the ability to invent, to create, to choose, to have the characteristic of will as God himself has. If they choose in their independent state, yet no one and no thing is all that independent, as we all depend on him, like a book depends on the table it's lying on, and the table depends on the house it's standing in. If they choose to use their abilities and take their substance and align it back again into God, and desire and allow him to really knit them in right, then they become part of him again, like the vine and the branch, and a special part of him at that, and whole and holy by his grace, living and growing in him. But if they choose to close up and keep to themselves, see Matthew chapter 25. It's got lots of neat stories in it explaining how we need to live. See Matthew chapter 25. But if they choose to close up and keep to themselves, then they are not reintegrated into God, and so are lost, being clumped and ever compacting, even as the others ever spread and grow with the vine himself. But note that growing here on earth requires breaking and then building. You and I must break wood out of a tree, or clay out of a riverbank, etc., and make things. Houses to live in, cups to drink from, etc. We break in order to make, and in so doing, we enable ourselves and each other to live and to learn from our existence and from our growing. We learn to live in the direction of health and life and benefit. We learn to live in the direction of God. That is, to live or walk along with him in the same direction. Or else we don't learn that, and we don't grow, and don't walk, don't live, but become radical, errant breakers and consumers and destroyers, who are ever further broken by their own breaking, consumed by their own consuming, and destroyed by their own destroying. You can see that destructive cycle happening all around us, where people take materials out of God's good creation and break them down, recombine the parts and pieces, and devour the conglomerate. The foods that we eat have all those unidentifiable ingredients in them because they are a reassemblage of broken bits and pieces to jack up the flavor or color, or to increase a product's quote-unquote shelf life. By adding strong chemicals, they diminish a food's life-supporting qualities, so bacteria won't spoil it before they've sold it to you. Shelf life. It's almost shelf death. I don't know. I just added that in there. It's not, I hadn't put that before. And the ideas we are given, broken, most of them, fiction and news, extracted from life, but not contributing to it, except to weigh on it. It's not a respectful disassembling and reassembling, like making soup, or getting in the harvest, in honor of God, and in order to be a benefit. No, but we break and consume only in order to amass. And the mass of our bulk, either of body or mind or materials, weighs upon and crushes the life out of us. Likewise, using our God-given time and energy in order to obtain money, in order to buy things, particularly in order to buy more and more and more things, is obviously headed in the wrong direction, neglecting and negating the good work that God intended for us to help with, becoming an enemy of God. We've gotten mixed up. We are now making points for the other guy's side, striving, pressing to the goal, against our own team, against our own lives. Like how a cancer will grow and grow, promoting itself until it takes your breath away. What a state we are in, if that's what we have become to the body of Christ. Yet there is hope, even in that analogy to cancer. For you've probably seen for yourself people who, in battling that dread misfunction of cells, take and properly use whatever health and life they have left to reach out and invest deeply into other people's lives, realizing through loss what is true gain, and in God, everlasting gain. We need to get knit back into God, which, taking direction from Him, but it's all in the direction of love and truth and life. So that sort of stuff. That's the end of that essay. And then here's another essay written on another day. Ouch! I'm sitting on a hard stump. But it's not too bad. Okay. Unified field theory. Let's see. Can I show you the pretty woods anymore? And what's on the ground? Just what's around, you know? I don't even know what's all around, but I know it's just beautiful. All over. So green. So green. Thank you, Lord. Okay. Unified field theory. Okay, put this out there. Unified field theory. Written mostly on April 22nd, 2004. See the Bible code. See, I haven't read this in years myself. And this is 2004, and today is the last day of July 2025. But I've read it before, read it many times, or wrote it, and I know what it's about, and I'm praying about it. Lord, help me read it well for you guys. So if I glitch any, it's because of that. but anyway, and it's just the handwriting, you know, like that. Does that show? There. And I'm hoping to get it publishable, somehow available so people can look at it and read it for themselves. But it might be easier to listen to me, but whatever works. I just got to do my best, so I better start reading this. Okay. Let's see, there's the trees way up there. You don't see those things. That's what's up there. Okay. Unified field theory, written mostly on 4/22/04. See the Bible code, page 31, at the top, where Eli Rips, he was a university professor in Israel. Jerusalem, I think. Hebrew University. See the Bible code. That's written by Michael Drosnin and copyright in 2097, I think. And I think I've heard that Mr. Josnin is gone now. He's dead now. But it was a wonderful book. It is a wonderful book. See the Bible Code, page 31, at the top, where Eli Ripp speaks of religion and science, saying that most people believe in one of them to the exclusion of the other. But, quote, I think that finally, when we understand both well enough, religion and science will come together. We will have a unified field theory, unquote. So I go on to write, the integrity of reality. That's what I, Terry, have long and long wanted to understand and see shown to others, to the glory of God, and to the relief of man. I've been reading some simplified books on science and molecules, and I've been thinking, with God encouraging me and helping me along, maybe I can explain some of it here. Atoms have very little actual substance. The aspect that makes them appear solid is the speed of their electrons in orbit around their nucleus. What makes them whirl so? But if that whirling, or vibrating as in quantum theory, were to be slowed, the atom would disappear, while yet none of its substance would be diminished. Yet much depends on that dependable whirling. Excited electrons whirl faster and farther out than normal, that is, unexcited electrons. So, in slowing down, would they collapse? Could more mass fit in a smaller space, and yet still be invisible? Could then invisible things be realer than visible things? And then also, there is relationship. If an atom were to have its electron orbits all lined up, like Saturn's rings, would it then be thick in regards to things on its broad side, and thin regarding things on its thin side? A kind of polarization? Could atoms then turn sideways and slip between other atoms, like a penny through planks, or a slice of bread through one of the slots in the toaster? Is the fourth or some other dimension then a matter of speed or spin? So, if we slowed down the whirling of some atom's electrons, it would no doubt become invisible. And if this were done to many atoms connected in a substance, it might just condense, though we could not do this without dire consequences, crashing the system. But what if such molecules already exist? A kind of world within a world, another dimension, not in the sci-fi sense, a world like ours in ours, at least partly, whose dimensions are smaller, miniature. Yet there's nothing to stop it from being bigger too, just more condensed. Whatever is practical in that realm. But, you say, if it were made of the same real material as is postulated, then visible or invisible, fast or slow, it would have the same weight or mass, and be detectable thereby. Unquote. Quoting you. But, I say, if it spin like water in a whirling bucket. Oh, I forgot. There are sometimes deer around, and something is, and also not far away is a house, and I heard kids. I can hear the kids still far away. But is that could likewise be it was prancing, little noise. Did you hear it? Could be a raccoon or a squirrel, more likely a squirrel. I did find a remote place, and yet close to houses, so at any rate, right here I was noticing this is where I drew a little tiny sketch. But I say, if it spin like water in a whirling bucket, then dimension would not be a matter of somewhere else, but a matter of orientation. One orientation within another. Like how machine guns mounted on airplanes were made to fire between the airplane's propeller blades. Kind of like that. They were, I heard about it anyway. That was what, World War I, World War II? And here, I'll show you though. Like water in a whirling bucket. I'll turn this over and show you. See there? Okay. Like if I want to show you, if you twirl a bucket around, the water will stay in the bottom of it if you've only got an inch or two. Or if you go round and round like that, the water will stay in the bottom of it, even if it is completely parallel or the bottom is even tipping towards. But the gravity, I don't entirely know how that works. I know some about stuff. Okay, I'll keep going. Propeller blades. And one orientation just might affect the other orientation, as with gears at right angles. One main gearbox, then, would be our minds, where intangible things prompt us to make those semi-tangible things called ideas and words, which we can go on to make more and more complex and tangible by way of speaking and writing and videos, speaking and writing, and through our behavior and choices, both personal and corporate, visible and invisible, but real. Come to think of it, even those intangible words are considered rather real, even in a practical sense, and even by our courts of law, as premeditated murder carries a greater punishment than does unpremeditated murder. And when those words are spoken or written down, they are considered real enough to hang whole civilizations upon. Our Constitution, for instance, and the whole of the law and the prophets was a reality committed to words, or words committed to reality, upon which much of the judgment of that civilization depended, having repercussions to this day. So then, what goes on? And there's repercussions. God spoke and helped his people, his messengers, Moses, for starters, to write down what he wanted people to understand. It got written down. It was invisible. It was in God's mind. He put it into Moses' understanding. Moses put it down in words on parchment or animal skins, something solid and flat, writing. And it matters. He holds us responsible for what we know that he has told us. For instance, to love one another, to love even our enemies. And the 10 Commandments to begin with. So much. Okay, better keep going. But so neat, even the Constitution, they came up with it in their minds. And many of them, or most of them, or all of them, knew God and were praying, Lord, help us do this right. At any rate, I better keep going. The whole of the law and the prophets, that's the Bible, the Old Testament, was a reality written to word, committed to words, or words committed to reality, because the reality was, never mind, upon which much of the judgment of that civilization depended, having repercussions to this day, and even in our own lives. So then, what goes on in our gearboxes really does matter, and what emotions we harbor and cultivate really matter too. For that is where our invisible reality meets with the invisible reality of further dimensions. What you choose to make real. Ouch! This tree stump is real, but I should sit on it better. I'm better. It's all okay again. It's just getting older, you know, you move, you shift, and like, ow. What you choose, I wonder if someone can stop this thing and fix it to take out the, I don't know. What you choose to make real, what you choose to transcribe into words or pictures, will mightily affect your visible world, the visible world, for better or for worse, or for waste, which is part of for worse. And furthermore, like if it's useless, then it's just wasted. But that's not better, that's worse. And furthermore, this chain reaction effect is not just one directional, from the emotional realm to the practical realm, but it can also work in reverse, where the practical realm can cause changes in the emotional visible realm. So that's what makes communication so tricky, so vital, and so dangerous, because it is solid in the middle and invisible on both ends, with the solid part resting on paper or on air or stone or magnetic tape, etc., while both ends are fast tied to another dimension. Wow! So then, lo and behold, words really are real. Whether they are only in your mind, or whether they are encoded on sound waves, or encoded in writing, or in magnetic or electrical impulses outside the brain, words and pictures are real. And in a way, you can even feel that this is so. A cutting remark really cuts across something in your mind, and a cold response really feels cold. Words, then, spoken or written, can have a tremendous impact on the receiver of them, almost as much as if an angry man took a blank piece of paper, punched it a good one, then folded it and mailed it to his adversary, who, upon receipt of the same, unfolded it and promptly received the impact full force. Furthermore, it would be like someone concocting something caustic. That means burning. It's a chemical word for burning. Concocting, that means recipe, making up something caustic, then sending the recipe to their adversary, who then makes up the recipe and gets burned. So why do we ever read mail from enemies or listen in order to comprehend their speech? Because somehow relationships and communications are so complex and fascinating and valuable that in spite of the impact or the burn, we are likely to gain something: insight into the other person's personality, or tangible evidence as to the other person's guilt or innocence, etc., or experience in dealing with conflicts, which may be useful on an even more serious occasion someday. And we might even possibly find a tool or an angle of approach that might enable us to overturn the argument, either in our favor or in favor of both parties, resettling or reestablishing the relationship. So, we read the words or we stand and listen to them. But if the words continue to be harsh, we will surely distance ourselves, one way or another, because the pain is real, because the damage is real, and the ability to sense pain, either in body or in mind, was given to us primarily to help us recognize damage and avoid it. And that's the end of that essay. I probably should have told you the end was coming. But ideas are real, and you transmit them in writing, and they receive them through their eyes or their ears, and it makes a difference. Amazing. At least it was amazing to me in 2004, and it's still amazing. And it's just my best shot at it. Other people maybe can take this, or hey, other people may have said it better. I just don't know where. So I've got to get this to people if I can. Thank you. Okay, next one. And that was page 22. I write rather large. Ideas of substance. I wonder if that showed it. I could swip it around. Push the button. If I push the where is that? The button there. Big hand. Then it would flip it from me to over. But anyway, I do that sometimes. And the sunshine is coming through those clouds, those trees up there. Let's see if I can show you over there. The sunshine. Yeah. There, you got to see, kind of. Okay, onward. This written mostly on 4/22. Isn't that the same thing as the last one? Yep. On the same day I wrote it. Ideas of substance. I didn't know which ones I'd put together into a booklet, but these ones I did. Ideas of substance. What is this thing that ideas are real? They are, of course, but how? And I'll put this out here. When we think, do we construct miniature molecular models in our minds? More or less functional two-scale models and or dioramas? Full scenes of battles or personalities or mechanisms, so that ideas, concepts in our minds would not be mere coded representations of existing things, like a flat image full of pixels that simply show light and dark or color in dots to affect the appearance of something. So, let's see. They so often tell us that we are only using a small percentage of our mental capacity. So then, maybe that's why we need all that room in our cranium for space to construct our ideas, and room for storage. When I was little, the Lord told me that my mind was like a room, and He and I could talk there. He would leave things, ideas, on a table or chair there for me to find and think about. I'll say, it's not that I saw a table or chair in my mind. It's just that He would leave things and you'd find them, but it's not like they were floating, and it's not like, I don't know what. He can do that. He did that for me. I would find an idea. Sometimes it was a picture, concept. But at any rate, I better keep going. He told me that my mind was like a room, and we could talk. He and I could talk there, and we did. Inductive learning, they said in my psychology class, is when you poke at things in your environment and see what jumps. Induce, you cause something to happen and find out what happens. Inductive learning. It's when you do something to something and see what happens. Whereas deductive learning is where you figure out what isn't happening. You deduct it, what isn't a factor, and remove that in order to clarify what really is going on, reducing to the lowest terms. So then, deductive reasoning, that's like that Sherlock Holmes, he used to do, matter of deduction. So then, either way, if the model of things you are constructing in your mind, i.e. in the process of learning, is being ever corrected and improved, not just to look more rightly, but to function more rightly, then it will, more and more, rightly interact with basically all the other constructs or mental constructions you have in your mental warehouse. The people don't live too far away there. I wonder if they're going to say, what are you doing here? Because it's on the hillside next to their house. But I guess I'll just keep going until I maybe look up and say, oh, I'm just sitting here. Oh, I see someone through the trees. Where's my glasses? Where's my glasses? Where did I put my glasses? I don't know. Oh, there they are. See? Glasses look a lot like twigs. And I'll look and now I can see. And I think they went inside the house. That'd be okay. Because I'm not going to be anywhere near their house or anything. I think you'd be fine. Most people don't mind. Okay, there goes the glasses this time. Okay. But if things you're constructing, you keep improving them, not that constant, but, oh yeah, then reality comes to fit together, makes more sense. Especially on any particular subject. If you're an auto mechanic, or I just came from the eye doctor. If you're an eye doctor, something like that. So anyway, so then, either way, if the model of the things you are constructing in your mind in the process of learning is being ever corrected and improved, not just to look more rightly, but to function more rightly, then it will, more and more, rightly interact with basically all the other constructs or mental constructions you have in your mental warehouse. But, warning, it seems that it is possible to let flat pictures dominate our thought processes and fill our mental shelves. And if we allow this to happen, we will not learn the functioning dynamics of things, and not learn the dynamics of how to interact with people and with reality, becoming a picture ourselves, two-dimensional, flat, shallow, disconnected from reality. Beware! That might also be why our society is crumbling, because our relationships are crumbling, because we no longer live in the fullness of life, or the fullness of life no longer lives in us. Flat commercial representations of what were once real things that we really needed simply will not do to fill our need for real things. Write the word water on a dozen scraps of paper and sprinkle them on a plant. It just won't do. Carry on a conversation, carry on a friendship with an image on the TV screen. Likewise, it just won't do. Go on an adventure without leaving your chair. It can't be done. They say that it can be done, those last two anyway, but it is mixing dimensions, and the lesser is not made better by the more dimensional thing, so much as the more dimensional thing, that's us, is flattened, emptied, disconnected from full dimensional reality by its reduction to the terms of the lesser. Here's the last sentence. So, we are disconnecting and becoming emptied, even while we are connecting up and becoming filled with lesser dimensional, unliving, man-made things. Reading that, and that's the end of that essay. I knew I should get this read and get it out to you guys. I hear someone tramping through the grass over there, but now it stopped again. Okay, that was page 28, and it says 43 minutes. Something like that. It says 44:39. Is that as much time as I've got left? Maybe I better leave it there then. Anyway, here, the next page says, that last thing was so important that I wish I could stop the notes right here to leave room for thought on the subject. But I'd better go on, as there are a few things yet to note. So I will do that later. Not all the notes are of the same caliber, mind you, and some might be useful to some people while being useless to others. Go slow, though, to consider the implications, because the implications might turn out to be more valuable than the notes themselves. There, I'll let you go. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.